Good morning and welcome to the Pandemic Diary 2020 with me, Emily Blake, and I'll soon be joined by my co-host, Joan Achong. Now, the Pandemic Diary is a show where we talk to people from around the world, all different backgrounds, all different areas of expertise and careers, and we want to know how the pandemic has affected them, whether that be positive or negative. We've had some fantastic guests who have already joined us on the show. It's been a brilliant week, and today we have two more amazing guests for you. We're going to be joined by Joseann Matthews, and she's a director at PowerPoint Creations. She's also a director at the No Youths Left Behind project, and she's a homeschool advocate and homeschool mum. You can see her on the screen. And we also have joining us today Daniela Bailey, a New Jersey junior high school principal. And I know I just pronounced your name in a different way to how I just practiced it. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Daniela. Daniela. Okay, this is my new favorite name, Daniela. Lovely to have you with us. Joan, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. A bit of a running around, and we do apologize for the lateness of our broadcast. We were experiencing some technical difficulties, and this do tend to happen sometimes in live podcasts. Things that do happen, and we just got to roll with the punches. And I'm glad you've all tuned in, and you're going to roll with the punches with us.
Yes.
But first of all, we like you to like, share, make a comment, and to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to Video Index. Video Index. Go on there, you'll see the shows, and we're going to have a wonderful talk today, okay? I'll be in the back supporting my co-host, Emily, and it's back to you, Emily.
Thank you, Joan. So let's start by talking to Joseann, who hopefully can hear us and we can hear her now. Hi, Joseann.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm so glad you could join us. Whereabouts in the world are you?
I'm currently in Trinidad. It's 6:16 here in Trinidad, so it's pretty early in the morning.
6:16 in the morning in Trinidad. Joan, Trinidad connections again. My dad is also from Trinidad, so feeling the love already.
Yes, you're a Trini, no matter where you are.
Yes.
In the world, you're a Trini.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself, please, first of all.
Firstly, I'm Joseann Matthews, also known as HD. I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. One of the directors of No Youth Left Behind. So I'm also a homeschool mom, so I'm not just a regular mom. So one of the most important things in my day is teaching my toddler.
So is it just one child you have?
I have 3 sons
for
now.
What ages are your sons?
My eldest son is 18, my second son is 12, and my third son is 3.
And have you homeschooled all of them?
I partially homeschooled the 2 eldest ones, but I'm fully homeschooling the baby as of now, right? Rodrigo was attending school as normal, so he attended primary school. Here we sit an exam called SEA, and he passed for what we consider a reputable secondary school, but he was not doing as well as he did in primary school because he had issues based on the fact that my dad had passed away and he was his only father figure at the time. And so he didn't fare well in school. I did discuss it with the principal and the teachers, and I didn't get the response that I wanted. I didn't get the feedback that I needed to know that my child is going to be successful after 5 years in that school. So I took it upon myself. I resigned my job. I resigned my job, and I put my son sit down, and I told him that I'm going to make this sacrifice in terms of time for money. So I was sacrificing money and giving him more time because I know he was capable of producing a result, good results. And he did do that. He went on, we studied together at home, and he was successful in the CSEC exam, that's the Caribbean Examination Council exam,
And
at the age of
Joanne,
14.
let me explain to the rest of the world. The exam she is calling is actually an exam that is sat in the Caribbean, equivalent to the O levels, GCSE in the Europe, and basically, yeah, that's what it is. What she's talking about. So he was at secondary school age, sitting his O levels. Go
Yes,
on, Joanne.
he would have sat that exam at 17, but I did sign him up to sit it private at 14, and he was successful. So before 15, he would have had 7 O levels that
And what
he
did you do
used.
next after that? What did you do next? I
After
think he
that,
was doing his degree at the
yes,
age of
so
15. He
he
went
at
on to do his
15
degree.
he started his degree. So he was the youngest person, I don't want to say child, he was the youngest person in his class because he goes to school with adults, right? So he's now in year 3. He's currently in year 3. So
What is he
he's
studying?
no because
What is he
he's
studying? What
studying in
course is he studying?
he's studying information technology. His major would be internet networking and stuff like that.
Okay, great.
And he's doing very, very well. He's one of those exceptional children that, he just takes it, he's interested in it, that's what he loves. And that's one of the discussions that we had. We had the discussion, what do you like? What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to force and do 12 subjects in school. That's what they were doing. They were doing 12 subjects in the school. You're not producing good results from 12 subjects. Okay, let's break that down. I would like you to pass 5 subjects. And math and English is mandatory. And he did pass math and English in
Along
a
with 5
space,
other O levels.
yeah, in a short space of time, because what usually takes 5 years, it took him under a year to
Mm-hmm.
acquire these results with a parent who people don't consider a teacher. So that is goes to show that parents can sit with their children, inspire
Mm-hmm.
the children,
Mm-hmm.
communicate with them, find out what they would like to do, and how you can assist them. Because I just have secondary school O levels as everybody else. I don't have a degree, but I found out what he needed to do, and I
Mm-hmm.
did research online, and I see how I could project him to where he'd like to be. So he wanted to do IT, and we looked at all the aspects of and all the information and everything that we needed to get there, and that's what he did. So now he's
Okay,
there and he's doing well.
that's wonderful. We also have another educator with us, Daniela Bailey. Daniela, have you got any advice? What do you think of Joseann's story, staying at home and educating her child? Because you're also an educator.
Absolutely. What a wonderful and an awesomely inspiring story that here it is. There is an instant where your child is unable to get what they need in a structured educational environment. And being the proactive mom, you jumped right in. You know your child best. And that's one thing that I continue to stress with the parents. You know your child best. You know exactly how your child learns, and you use that to your benefit to make sure that your child was successful. So kudos. What an awesome job. It's unfortunate, though, that your son couldn't get what he needed in the system that you trusted to educate him.
Thank you for saying that, Danelia. I completely agree. And I work as a supply teacher myself and as a mentor going in and doing workshops with children. And as we led up to the pandemic really sort of taking off when things had to be locked down, it was an extremely stressful environment, even just for me, who was someone who's popping in and out. So as a principal, how was the experience for you?
So this, again, experience has been like none other. You know, usually in the day of a principal, you have to monitor and adjust on a minor scale, whether it be, you know, lockdown in the middle of the day or folks dropping in unannounced. But this challenged the entire educational system where you had to transfer the learning from on-site to virtual. And so, you know, making that transition was one that required a lot of teamwork and effort. And I continue to say I have the best staff, you know, in the district. Folks were very creative. And so, in a short period of time, we were able to transfer the learning, like I said, from on site to a virtual or a distant learning platform. And it's been very successful for the most part. I'd like to say that I have 100% participation from parents and students, but at this point, we had some folks who did not have the actual technology at home. And so once we remedied that by getting laptops into the hands of all of our students, there were some glitches. And this week is the first full week that every student we know of that needed a laptop had one. So we'll see the results of that hopefully going forward.
That's incredible. And how lucky are those families you were able to actually provide them with the technology? Because that was something that I was concerned about in the school that I was working at. It was my last day in the school, just before we knew that actually everything was about to be shut down. And a teacher said, you know, to the class, just in case we're not going to be in school, we need to get you set up online. And she said, who here has the internet? And there were actually quite a few students who had no access to the internet at home. So
Yeah.
what a challenge for you to actually get by that and provide the technology. So you're saying that you've got lots of participation. That's a surprise to me as well, because I almost feel like children would try and escape doing the work. So how are you tracking that they're on there and they're doing everything they should be?
So, like I said, there are positive sides to technology and definitely downsides. But a lot of our teachers use the Zoom platform or Google Hangout. And so they've actually created virtual classrooms that I can drop in on as the principal to observe what's going on. So whether they're making videos and posting them on YouTube using this venue, or they're providing direct instruction through Zoom or Teams or all of those different venues, the delivery of instruction has been consistent.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. And I love the fact that you can just pop in. You're in a class and suddenly your principal is there.
Disrupt the entire lesson when they see me. Oh, Miss
Yeah.
Baker.
Oh, let's focus. Brilliant. I'm so glad that's successful. Joseann, is it, so you are a homeschool advocate. Do you teach any other children other than your own children?
I don't homeschool other children, but as part of my organization, the organization No Youth Left Behind, which I'm one of the directors. No Youth Left Behind was founded by Quincy Joseph in 2012. I'm one of the educators, or the main educator in No Youth Left Behind. That's my purpose there. So we have children in our community who have issues. They cannot read, they cannot write properly because they are going through the school system, and the school system works. It just don't work for everyone, but it does work, right? We just need to identify the ones that it don't work with, and we give them that one-on-one. So that's what I do during off school time, like, you know, homework center. We had a homework center running and evening classes, and you work with students, and sometimes you discover that children are dyslexic and they have a slight autism and stuff like that, and they need help, whereas so they can pick up in the school system. So the problem is not exactly the school system. The problem is sometimes children need extra, and that's where I come in.
Yeah, so it's not about saying homeschooling is better, it's about identifying students that need the extra support, and you're there to provide
In,
that.
in some cases, homeschool has its benefits. Everything has its benefits and its negativity. So it depends on your area. It depends on what you can provide for your children. So at the moment, I would say homeschool is better for me because I work at home, and instead of having to leave home to drop my son to school, it consumes our time, and then he spends how much hours at school, and I may or may not get the results that I need for him at his age, right? But Rodrigo is older. But in terms of the baby is way past his age. But I have recently discovered that he has a speech problem. So he's
Okay.
so smart and he could say so many things. But if he's speaking too quickly, now we have an issues where words are not being pronounced properly. So now I'm going to have to learn how to teach him to speak properly. So that's going to be my new project in the next couple of months. I'm going to have to learn how these, because I'm not going to hire somebody to do that. He's like 3. I think I'm capable of learning. And that's something important that parents need to do, learn in the with the purpose of teaching. So I learn to teach. I may not need certain things, but if my children need it, I go out, get information, I learn it, and I bring it back to them in a way that they can understand. So I advocate for homeschooling for parents who they know that their children, you have to evaluate your children. You don't just send them to school. Okay, we have a school system and it's free. Go to school and hope that they learn. No, you evaluate each of your children individually. And some children, they go to school and they function. Let them do that. Let the teachers do their job. If this is not the case with 1 or 2 of your children, pull them out of the system or work with the school. Because I did try working with the school at first. It's unfair to just pull your child out of the school and say, oh, your school system is not working. No, most times it may not be the school system, right? So you discuss with the principal what can be done. You discuss with the teachers. We see if we can identify a problem within the child. If that isn't working, you remove the child and you find a system that works. You teach so children can learn. You don't just send them into a system. You find a system that is workable so they can be educated properly.
Okay, Daniela, as a school principal, what her theory on this, how does it work with you as a principal in a school setting?
So
How does it work for you?
I'm listening to Joseann's struggle with her son, and let me start by saying that I am an advocate for every child in my building. The adults can advocate for themselves, but the children cannot, and so I am Mama Bailey in that building. So I take on Joseann's role. Every child, whatever the need is, we look to accommodate. So let's say that Joseann's son was a student in my school and we realized that he was having some difficulties. That child would be referred through our I&RS process. And it's a process that is designed to help students who are struggling, whether academically, behaviorally, whatever the challenges are. We devise an individual plan for that student that is backed by data, and the teachers are brought in. We have an entire team. So we may have more resources than the school that you went to. Included in our resources, we have a reading specialist, we have a social worker, we have a psychologist, and special ed teachers whose specialty is dealing with students with learning disabilities. We provide a structured program for kids with autism. So, what if your child needs speech therapy? We have a speech pathologist on staff. We have OT. We have PT. So we have a lot more resources as a public school than it sounds like your school have. There's an individual plan that is tailor made for that student, and the teachers and the entire team will track the progress of the student after 30 days, after 60 days. We do a reevaluation to see if the interventions that have been put in place are working, and we continue to evaluate. If it's not working, we become like Dora with the backpack. You know, we go back into the backpack and we pull out some other strategies that we would try, and everything is backed by data. And so if that child wasn't reading on a particular level, after 30 days, we should see improvement in that area. If that child was being tossed out of class 50 times before, it should be at least 40 now and no longer 50. So looking specifically at the data that's being provided as a result of tracking whatever the presenting issue is of the student. So we have a lot more resources, and we try very hard to ensure that nobody is left behind.
And that counts. Yeah,
That
the
is so
topic.
very important.
Yes, it is. It's very
Absolutely.
It is.
important because no child should be failed at any level,
No.
and
Yeah.
their confidence must not be broken, because we had issues like we were talking to one of our guests, Emily and myself, earlier on this week, and we had math issues. And a lot of us who had math issues, we had this wall built up. Whereas in the system, like what you just discussed with Joseann, the system helps to break these barriers. Now, what I would like to know, what is happening as a result of the shutdown for children who are failing? Are there any mechanism put in place to make sure that the ones who needed those special needs are not, their needs are not neglected during the time of the COVID-19 shutdown or
So now
lockdown?
we've also instituted speech
Mm,
online, OT
mhm,
online, PT online. So we're working very closely with the parents. Our child
mhm,
study team, which would deal with those students who, had individual education plans or IEPs, have now all gone virtual. So those meetings are taking place in Zoom rooms and
mhm,
on Google Line. Now, it's very interesting because Joseann, maybe you can attest to this. Behaviors that teachers would normally see in a classroom of 15 or 20 students with a particular student. Once you homeschool, you don't see those behaviors. Very rarely, very rarely do you see them. But those students who are artistic, of course, the parents are faced with dealing with the challenges, educational challenges of those students. So whatever supports we can offer via Zoom, that becomes an integral part of the educational process right now. And let me just backtrack to your math example. I used to be a math teacher, so I take that very personally. I made sure that but
it
my
was
math
one of my
class
weaker subjects.
was the math class that, folks, I guaranteed them. In the beginning of the class, I would ask, let me see the hands of those of you that love math. And usually about 5 or 6 boys would raise their hands, not the girls. But at the end of that class, when they've learned to take 30% off of a sale that's going on, and they have barely bucks, and they can use that bucks, to shop. And once you make it practical and applicable, then you would see that folks relate differently to the material or the content that's being
That's
taught.
correct. Yes.
And I think this is what happens with the homeschooling. You actually went in, Joseann, to find what your children needed and how they learned, and you structured their studies
Yes,
according
that
to their
happens.
personalities and needs.
That happens. Usually, that's what the school does, and I commend Mrs. Bailey for that, having a school that could tailor to a child. Because what happens is that you have maths has been a struggle for me also when I went to secondary school here. But what happened when I was working with my son, I realized you have to make it a day to day. You have to bring the math into real life. So they have to
Absolutely.
understand how it works for them in real life. It's not that just a bunch of numbers
Absolutely.
next to letters and everything is all over the place. And the first question you ask is, why do I even need this? And that's the question you have to answer for the child. You have to show the child why they need what they are studying. How does it apply to real life?
Mm-hmm.
And as Miss Danielle was saying about the 30%, when I was working with my second son and he was making a fuss, I say, when you go to a store and you see 30% off and you see the actual price is 100%, you right away want to know how much is that 30% value for
Absolutely.
you. And that is simple percentage. Oh, I don't like percentage and this work is so hard. No, this is real life. This is real life. You go to the parlor and you have money. You don't want the woman, you don't want the individual at the store robbing you. Your money is valuable. So you're saying
That's right.
this stuff is valuable. So you need to know. You need to know because you don't want to be robbed. And you bring them into it and you make it fun and enjoyable. You could pull out some cash and they could, work it out. If when we were doing things like when you work and you get an incentive. So I give my children incentive. You get
Mm-hmm.
this done, you can benefit.
Mm-hmm.
You find ways to make them comfortable, happy in learning because the purpose is to learn. The purpose is to educate. And I wish I had a school like Mrs. Daniela's school because I went in there and I say, what you all could do for Rodrigo? So we could give him some counseling. I waited a year, 2 years. I
Oh,
signed him out of school. He still didn't get a counseling. And there was an in-house counselor. And I asked her, I said, why didn't you call Rodrigo and ask him and have a conversation with him? She said, I spoke to the teacher and they said he was fine. You can't know that he's fine. Your job there, you're not a teacher there. You're a counselor there. So you call him into the office. Hey, what's going on with you? You have issues at home? What's the issue? What's causing you not to function? You pull his file from previous files. Oh, I see you were doing well. Why are you not doing well now? What could we do? What could we do in this school to make you do better? And that's the impression I'm getting from Mrs. Bailey that that's what they do. And I would have loved to have that. I would have been able to go to work and make some more money. I probably would have been kind of rich. So we don't have that here. At least the school that he went to, I didn't get that. So, we need that. You need that children get that education that they need one way or the other, find a way. And parents also need to support the teachers. When you have teachers really going a mile and a half, you find out what they need. What do you need? You need stuff printed, you need printing paper. Miss, what do you need? You give your children stuff to take to the teacher because these teachers are partially doing your job. Yes, it's their job, but remember they don't have one child; they have like 30 children, and you want that teacher to feel comfortable and inspired. Because I had my children go to school, and you make your teachers comfortable. You understand?
Okay, so we hear that you're doing the homeschooling. It's working effectively with your three children. And I'd like to know during the COVID-19 lockdown, how is that impacting on your family, being home with the three children, having to homeschool, and you run your business from home? We gathered that from earlier on. What do you do? What do you do for a living? Yes.
I do craft. So I do printing, sublimation printing on t-shirts, any polyester fabric. I do
Mm-hmm.
sublimation printing. I do mug printing. Um, I also do sewing. I'm adaptable, so I'm very crafty. So long as there's an opportunity to get something done, I do glass decorations. I could probably show you all one. So I have these little things that I do,
Ooh.
right? I do a lot of things. So my business is called the PowerPoint Creations. and I use my hands to do a lot of stuff. I'm mostly printing and decorating and crafty stuff. At the moment, I'm doing sewing. I'm doing masks because that is what the nation is calling for right now. Everybody needs masks because of this COVID-19 that we are going through. So I dropped everything else and I'm behind the sewing machine day and night producing these masks.
Oh, it's amazing. And how long have you been doing all of your crafts?
I have been doing crafts since I am 8. My
Okay.
mother is crafty. My mother is a seamstress. What I did as a child, I learned everything that my parents were capable of doing. So my mother was into craft and sewing and crocheting and knitting. I learned it all. I don't love all, but I made myself applicable that I can do it if I need to. So I can sew, I can knit. My father was into agriculture, so I plant. I have plants that I see about every day. I'm into every little thing that is handy. So being home in COVID-19 hasn't changed much for me because I've been home for the last 5 years. This is what have been doing. Everybody was saying that it's crazy, but now everybody's doing the exact thing I'm doing. Everybody's teaching online, finding information for the children online, and having to spend time with the children. I've been doing that for years. I've been enjoying it. I get a lot of hugs. I get, I love you too, mommy. Um, so now, if parents are really take that opportunity, they realize this is almost a blessing because family life has been broken down by a lot of distance, social distancing. Parents are going to work, both parents are out the house, everybody's when they're back home, everybody has a television in their room, everybody has a phone. So everybody has been socially distant in their home. Now people are forced to be socially distant from the outside. So you're inside and you have to spend time with your family. You have to, and if people are smart, they're going to use that wisely to get to know their children and enjoy their children and see how they learn. Some children learn visually and different things like that. So there's not a major change for me. I still tend to my plants. I still work at home. My kids are still home. They don't go. We have a large yard, so we can roam the yard and play. We're not boxed in.
Mhm. Okay. I'd like to ask Daniela a question. I'm bringing to the forefront that you, as a school principal, you actually came down. You
All
contracted
right,
the
something's happening and I
coronavirus.
can't hear you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you
Okay.
heard?
Joan, what
I'm
did you say?
asking. You were affected by the coronavirus. Hello? Is anybody hearing me?
I am hearing you.
Hi. Daniela,
I'm
are you hearing me? Joseann, Joseann is hearing me.
Yeah,
I'm
Emily, are you
hearing.
hearing me?
can't, Joan can't hear you.
Emily, you want to ask Daniela about the coronavirus? She suffered the coronavirus.
Yeah, so Daniela actually spent some time in hospital after being tested positive for coronavirus. Can you tell us about that? And by the way, I'm guessing you're recovered now. You look very well.
Thank you. I actually came down, was feeling just a bit tired before being hospitalized, just tired. And I just chalked it up to, working. Came down Saturday morning stairs, came downstairs to do my normal routine, fix breakfast. And just the walk downstairs, I was out of breath. I couldn't catch myself. Ended up calling an ambulance. The ambulance came because it was just different. Ambulance came, tested me, found out I had pneumonia, and then tested positive for the virus. Stayed in the hospital, and at first my plight was, I'm the principal of a school. I have a school to run. So I'm in the hospital and trying to orchestrate things from my phone, Zoom meetings on my phone, and not trying to let anyone know that I was hospitalized. So I continued to make all of my district meetings and all of my administrative meetings. I wouldn't allow the camera aspect of it because I didn't want folks to know that I was hospitalized, but tried very hard to get through those meetings. I was hospitalized for a week and then discharged. At that point, I figured, you know what, this is affecting the lives of so many people. And I wanted them to know that they didn't necessarily have to suffer alone. So at that point, I went live from my platform. I'm a principal, a parent, but I'm also a pastor of a church, and felt that the live information could help so many in a crisis that was new, pandemic that was affecting the lives of so many people all around the world. And I felt the fact that, you know, people heard the doom and gloom of the story and didn't actually, for some people, could not attach a specific face to a survival story. And I wanted to give people some semblance of hope. And as a result, I decided to go public with the fact that I was positive, I was hospitalized, and we can bounce back from this. So.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because all we see and hear on the radio and on the television is the negative, is the death toll. So when you hear of people being tested positive, or if you are starting to suffer symptoms yourself, you see it as this is the end, which is causing a lot of stress, causing a lot of anxiety. But actually, if we see people having recovered, then it does give us hope. So thank you for, you know, going public with it and giving that hope to people. What made you sort of hide away from doing that in the beginning?
I'm sorry?
What made you keep it to yourself in the beginning? Was it that you just didn't want to cause other people worry about you?
So that was definitely part of it. And again, you know, the fact that here it is, we were making this transition from an on-site to a virtual learning platform, and I felt that the staff definitely needed the presence of the captain, if you will, or the leader, to help them make a positive transition. And so I felt like I had an obligation to continue to support them in whatever that venture was, however it is I could, you know, remotely. And so that was part of the kind of shielding the fact that I had tested positive. Just not wanting to appear that I was absent from the time when I felt like the staff needed me the most.
Mm. That's really admirable and really strong of you as well to, you know, try and keep everything going. And it must have been such a stressful time with that transition and putting everything online. So how was your recovery? And are you absolutely free of the symptoms now?
So after being discharged from the hospital, I still needed oxygen to help me breathe. Still was suffering from the shortness of breath and, of course, going through isolation. In terms of the um, physical aspect of it, I, after a week, was able to breathe without the oxygen. After being discharged from the hospital, I went a week with the oxygen at home. And after a week, I was able to wean myself off of that. But you know, the emotional aspect of it is also very taxing. You're in a facility or you're in a hospital where there's absolutely no physical contact, where your family aren't allowed to visit you. You know, so if you don't have a phone or if you don't have some sort of electronic device where you can maintain contact, it can be very depressing. It can be very lonely. And all of those aspects of it, being in isolation 14 days after being discharged from the hospital,
Mm.
was also very taxing. And so I was happy for the fact that I did have some sort of technology to maintain contact with my own children and family members. You know, I just continue to think of the impact it's going to have, not only academically, but socially and emotionally on my students once this pandemic is tamed. you know.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us about your son as well? I believe he's actually living in China.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my oldest son resides in Guangzhou, which that city is in turmoil right now. Well, China is, in terms of some xenophobic reaction to Africans in the country. As a
Mm.
result, there's been a major backlash where residents are not allowed to inhabit their homes. They're not allowed to access businesses, so on and so forth. And it's unfortunate, but my oldest son and some of his friends were rounded up and placed in a facility where they were all tested for the COVID virus. My oldest son also tested positive, was transferred to a locked facility right now. He's asymptomatic, so he's not showing any signs of the disease. Nothing whatsoever, but they're also trying to offer him at this point medication, which he is refusing because he doesn't have any symptoms of the disease. So it's a very concerning time, not only for us worldwide with the pandemic, but also the social aspect of it, where folks are retaliating one against the next and pointing blame and pointing fingers, and in a time where there needs to be a sense of camaraderie and humanity to one to another. There is all of this unnecessary unrest and chaos that's being added to the disease itself, which is making it unbearable for some.
Yeah, as if it's not difficult enough already. I was really hoping when I saw these stories coming out on my social medias that it was just a hoax. I really hoped that it wasn't true. But actually, I've seen videos of it happening, and now to hear from you, firsthand with your son, that actually that is happening over in China, and that I really hope that somehow, the government can step in and actually stop that. What's interesting is your son, you saying he's refusing the treatment because he doesn't feel that he does have coronavirus.
Asymptomatic.
So he
He-
may be positive for it. So you can be positive for the disease and not show any of the symptoms of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually prevalent in the younger young people. And so he's one. He's very healthy. He's an athlete. He's got a master's degree in business, but chooses to be a mixed martial arts fighter. So he's someone who trains regularly, so on and so forth. Does not have any pre-existing conditions, so he's very healthy, and he presents as very healthy. And so his thing is, if he's not demonstrating any of the symptoms, why take the medication? So he is very healthy, like I said, none of the adverse effects, no breathing problems, no shortness of breath, no aches, no fevers. So that's why he's refusing the medication at this point. And he's in a place right now where the interaction isn't positive for African Americans or Africans in general. And so because of the level of distrust right now, he's refusing, like I said, all types of medical treatment for a disease that he's asymptomatic for.
Yeah, I understand.
And we can't really blame him for that, because right now there is extensive news going around where France and European nations are trying to go into Africa and test the Africans and use them as basically human guinea pigs for experiments.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And he may be afraid of that happening to him, because if I'm fit and I'm healthy, you telling me I have corona, but I'm fit and I'm healthy, I'm not feeling ill or anything. You want to, maybe try something on me, and I don't know what's going on with me. And there's no vaccination. Actually, there's no known cure for the coronavirus. So giving him medication for something that there's no cure from, I think it's a bit of a gray
That's
area
scary.
there. And I don't know if people might agree or disagree with me. I don't know if people would agree with me, but I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
but
do
take a
it.
look
If I
at
were
the
him, I would
amount
not do
of
it.
folks who have tested positive or didn't get the test, have had the virus and fought it at home without medication. So I'm not saying that everyone fits into that category, but as you know, reverting back to Joseann knowing exactly what her son needed, you are the expert on you. And you know exactly what you need. You may not have the doctorate degree. Joanne didn't have the teaching degree, but she knew enough to make amends, you know, to help her son through. You may not have the medical degree, but again, you know exactly how your body reacts to certain things. And if you are going about business as usual, nothing has changed, you're breathing, then again, I support him 100%. Why take medication if you're not feeling the adverse effect of the disease?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to know from both of our guests, and I'll start with Joseann, have there been any positives from this time that we're in? Are there any things that are actually have improved in your life, or new things that you've discovered? You know, is there an upside to any of this? What can we take from it?
Well, as I said before, life is basically still the same for me. So I just have more work now. So if there's something more positive, is that I'm actually more busy than I was before. And I actually have to stop what I'm doing to make time for the baby and stuff like that. But life is pretty much the same for me, and where I live. It's really difficult reading and looking at the news. Sometimes I avoid looking at the news because there's so many stuff going on and people are going through so much, and people families are losing people all over the world. We just have about 8 persons deaths in Trinidad, but when you look at the news and see how much losses, I get up and I say, Joe, you're living in paradise. Because I can still walk in the yard and I can still pick fruits and do stuff. I'm not affected majorly per se. I'm not really affected.
Mm-hmm. What about when you have to go out and get your groceries and go to the shops? How, you know, you're obviously having to leave the house at some point.
Right. So I made groceries pretty early. So I'm stocked up. We are not excessive here because, financially, we live within our means, right? You learn to do that when you leave your job. You learn to live within your means. So, like I said, it's almost as if we were prepared for something like this. I don't have to run out to the supermarket and grab stuff and things like that. I'm stocked up with stuff. What is good is I'm seeing my son is learning to make bread, and I see I personally don't have the time to be doing any fancy cooking, but my son does not have school and he's home now. Usually I wouldn't see him for the week because his school is far from home. His college is far from home, so now he's home, and he's learning to knead flour, and he pulled out the recipe book, and so that's a plus. If I'm seeing a plus, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
He's learning to do things, and I'm actually not standing over him. He just knows that he has to get things done. Mommy is busy, and okay, I'm 18. Let me see how this works. So I really don't have to run out, and if I do, I have masks. I'm in excess of masks.
Of course.
I'm
I
just
may need to order a few of them from you.
Yes, I'm in excessive of masks. Presently, I'm just waiting for the ban to lift because I have so many orders to get out of this country. Mask orders outside in New York and different places, but we can't ship anything out. But I'm just making sure that I'm prepared. So I'm having all these, I'm just sewing and putting things in place. So when things are ready to get out there, Joseann is going to be ready.
Joseann, you must have gone to Girl Guides or
show.
something because you are so prepared in every way.
Yes.
So working from home has been an advantage for you.
Yeah,
Working
you did
at home
that.
has been an advantage for you.
you learn to do stuff by force when you're financially strapped. When you go into work and you're getting a salary every month, oh, you run to the grocery every as regular as you could, you buy stuff whenever. But when you leave your job or you don't have a job, because now people are forced into not having a job, I left mine. So they're basically in the same situation that I am in, that I was in 5 years ago. The money is not coming in, and I have to find ways now. I have to find ways of making money. I have to find ways of making money at home, because I'm home with my children. So what is taking place now is something that I placed myself in, and I have adjusted to it. So it's quite comfortable for me now, teaching at home, making time to cook and sew or print, stopping, tending to the baby, the chaos of everything. Oh, listen, wait, mommy's doing some work here. Parents are now adjusting to that, doing stuff online. So yeah, I've been preparing for this for the last 5 years. Oh my God.
And how about Daniela? Have there been any positives from this experience? Obviously, you've actually gone through contracting COVID-19, but is there anything positive that you can take from the experience?
So absolutely. Like I said, I operate in, my three Ps, if you will, as a parent. I have all of my children are adults. My youngest is 24. So, but the two younger ones are still here with me. So watching how they came together to support me is always good. You teach your children to be responsible, and you teach them all of the things that you want them to, that they need to know in order to become productive adults. But then in a time of crisis, when it kicks in, you are very pleased, and you know that they're going to be all right, because they have each other. As a principal, I've been techie, but now I'm forced to take that to another level. So having the experience of being the principal of a virtual school is definitely a plus. And being able to orchestrate meetings and do whatever it is I need to do via technology and virtually is a plus. As a pastor, anytime you get folks talking to God, that's a plus. And so one of the stories that stick out for me the most, when I went public with the fact that I had tested positive, of course, there was an outpouring of support from past students, from parents, from pastors, from members, just an overwhelming response. One of the students that I taught in sixth grade inboxed me, and I tell the story often. And she said, Miss Bailey, my parents never taught me how to pray. But when I saw the video, I got so scared. I started talking to God about you every day because I wanted him to heal you. I needed you here. And so for me, that is the greatest benefit, anytime we can get folks who have never talked to God, talking to God, in whatever capacity they're having that conversation, for me, it's a plus.
Wow. So actually we can take quite a lot from this newfound faith and that connection. And Joseann is being cooked for now, which is also really nice. I want to thank you all for today. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, and I'm sure there's so much more we can learn from you both, so I wish we did have some more time. I want to thank both of our guests today, and thank you for being such hardworking individuals and for bringing your children up. They sound like they're going to be absolutely proactive, productive adults as well. And good luck with your school. Reverend Bailey, good luck. Joseann, I hope that you can send those masks out to all those people who are wanting them and needing them. Well done for doing that. Joan, thank you for a great show. Joan, thank you so much for a great show today. Please like, share, comment. This will be available for you to watch and share on our YouTube channel. So please do that for us. We'd love to hear your comments, and we'll see you next week. We'll see you on Monday at 11 at the Pandemic Diary 2020. So this is goodbye from me and Joan. Thank you to our guests.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
To you and your
I need to connect with Miss Bailey. I could learn so much from her.
We'll put you guys together.
Please do.
All right.
Okay, everybody, be safe.
Be safe and have a wonderful week. Enjoy the weekend and come back next week and join us on the Pandemic Diary 2020 at 11 a.m. GMT time and at 6 a.m. Eastern time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.